A factory can follow the reference it was given, and the customer can still refuse to approve the sample. That happened in a custom packaging project for 500 PU boxes. The customer paid for the sample. After receiving it, they said the glue marks were too visible. It was not simply that the factory had made a back sample. It was that this quality standard had never been clearly defined, priced, or agreed before quotation. So, before mass production, I needed to turn a subjective expectation into a physical standard that both sides can actually follow. At the beginning of the project, the customer provided a reference box in another color. The factory checked its structure, materials, and general workmanship. Based on the reference and the information available at that time, the factory calculated the price and produced a paid sample. Then I sent the sample to the customer. At that stage, the customer had not separately mentioned that the glue marks needed to be almost completely invisible. So this requirement was not included as a specific production or inspection standard before the factory prepared the quotation. After receiving the sample, the customer pointed out several details that needed improvement, including the edge finishing, alignment, and visible glue marks. They compared our sample with another box they already had, where the glue was much less visible. However, that comparison box had not been provided to the factory before quotation, so the factory had not used it to evaluate the production process, labor requirement, or quality control costs. That doesn't mean the customer's expectation was unreasonable. The sample simply revealed a quality requirement had not been clearly identified earlier. Sometimes a customer knows the overall appearance they want, but only discovers which individual details matter after comparing two physical products side by side. In this case, glue visibility became part of the customer's expected arrival standard only after the first sample was received and compared. I discussed every point with the factory. The factory said that most of the workmanship detail could be improved during mass production by paying more attention to alignment, edge finishing, and inspection. But the glue issue was different. The factory explained that if the glue needed to be almost completely invisible, the workers would have to spend more time applying and controlling it. The factory would also need to use a stricter inspection standard and reject more pieces that didn't reach a higher visible requirements. This would increase both the labor costs and quality control costs. So it was not simply a question of asking the workers to be more careful. It was a higher production standard, and the original unit price had not been calculated for that standard. At this point, the customer and the factory were using two different quality standards. The customer was thinking, this is the arrival quality I expect. The factory was thinking, this is the production standard included in the price I quoted. Neither side was necessarily ignoring the other side's requirements. The real problem was that the customer's expected arrival standard and the factory's quoted production standard had never been fully aligned. Before producing 500 pieces, that gap had to be closed. Otherwise, both sides could continue using the words such as improve or less visible while expecting completely different physical results. The easiest way to tell to the factory, please improve the glue marks during mass production. But that sentence is not a usable quality control standard. What does less visible mean? How much glue can still be seen and remain acceptable? The customer, the factory, and I might all understand those words differently. This is especially risky for handmade custom packaging. Written comments can identify the location of a problem, but for visual details such as glue visibility, wrapping, and edge finishing, the written instructions cannot completely replace a physical reference. Without an agreed physical sample, the factory may believe it has already improved the product while the customer may still reject the finished goods. So I cannot approve 500 pieces based only on a verbal promise that the result will be better during mass production. I decided that we need a new physical reference before mass production, but I didn't ask the factory to only produce a highly polished sample. A skilled worker can spend more time making one box. Looks almost perfect. This proves that the factory can make a good box under special conditions. it doesn't prove that the same result can be repeated across 500 pieces under normal production schedule. So I asked the factory to produce 3 boxes using the same process and workmanship standard that will actually apply to the bulk order at the original price. The purpose is not to select one perfect box and hide the others. The purpose is to see the realistic quality level and the normal handmade variation that might appear during mass production. One polished sample shows what may be possible. Several production standard samples show what may be repeatable. Once 3 samples are ready, I will show all of them to the customer. The customer will be able to see how much the glue visibility has been improved, what small handmade variation may still exist, what quality the factory can realistically maintain at the original price. The customer then can confirm one sample as the main physical reference for mass production. The other samples are also important. They help show the realistic variation that may appear in a handmade product. So the final physical standard should not simply be every box must look exactly the same as the best sample. Instead, we need 3 things. One may approve physical reference. Clearly accepted range of small handmade variation, a rejection limit for the results that fall outside that range. This physical standard connects the customer's expectation, the factory's actual production process, and the agreed unit price. If the customer still requires a significantly higher standard, such as the glue being almost completely invisible on every piece, then the process and the price needed to be recalculated. A premium production standard cannot simply be added to the original price through a verbal request. But approving a physical sample is not the end of quality control. A factory may produce 3 acceptable boxes and still have consistency problems when more workers and a faster production rhythm are involved. So I add a second control point. After the factory completes the first 50 pieces, I will visit the factory and inspect the product on site. I will check multiple boxes instead of asking the factory only show me the best pieces. And I will compare them with the customer's approved physical sample and check the glue visibility, edge finishing, variation between different pieces, and the factory's rejection process. If the production result starts moving away from the approved standard, we can correct it before the remaining 450 pieces are completed. The purpose is to find a production problem after the first 50 pieces, not after all 500 pieces have already been made. This process is not about automatically supporting the customer and automatically defending the factory. It is about identifying the real source of disagreements. Did the factory fail to follow an agreed standard, or had a standard never been clearly defined or included in the quotation? My role is not to simply forward the customer's complaints to the factory, and it is also not to pressure the factory to accept every requirement at the original price. My role is to align the customer's expectation, the factory's production process, quality standard, and the price before mass production. For this order, that required 3 controls: an approved physical reference at an agreed price, a clearly understood range of acceptable handmade variation, an early inspection point after the first 50 pieces. A custom packaging sample is not only to use to confirm whether the product looks good, it can also reveal the quality requirements that neither side clearly recognized before quotation. And without an agreed physical standard, only saying, please improve it during mass production, it is not a quality control plan. It is only a hope. I share custom packaging and China sourcing decisions on this channel, from sample approval and supplier management to mass production quality control.